And welcome to the Detroit Lions News, your number one source for Detroit Lions news. Today we have a very, very, very special guest. We got John Macron of Sports Illustrated, Lowdown on Lions. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Right on, man.
Yeah,
it's always great to talk. It's always great to talk football. Yep.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're an insider. You're in Allen Park, and that's what the show is called today. Inside Allen Park, 222 Republic Drive. Now we also have another insider, Mark Orem with Lions Nation Unite. He also has his own YouTube channel, Mark Orem's Forum. And what else do you do, Mark?
Hey, I just do YouTube. I do the podcast. I do a lot of Lions videos. I go live weekly. I do a bunch of podcasts with Micro Mike. I'm a OPP, One Pride podcast. Yeah, man, I'm hitting those airways, man, having fun with this. And football is my passion, especially the Detroit Lions.
Right on, right on. Awesome. Okay, we're going to break down this draft. We're going to break down this draft, and we're going to start with the 7th round pick. We're going to talk about Mr. Green, the wide receiver that we drafted. If you could talk about it, John. You're inside the den. That's a dream job. I can't believe you get to go and see all the players and be around Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. Talk about it, brother.
Yeah, it's a good time, man. Covering the draft was wild, especially this year with Brad Holmes making all the trades, the rumors surrounding DeAndre Swift and everything going on. It was a big draft for the Lions, and starting with Antoine Green. I think it's a solid selection. When you look at it, many maybe would have thought that the team could have targeted a wide receiver earlier in the draft, but this is a big, tall receiver that I think will benefit from working with Marvin Jones and Amon-Ra St. Brown out of Carolina. Obviously, the connection with having Dre Bly coming from there. So there's some familiarity with a player that I think early, obviously 7th round picks have really kind of a tougher road to make a team. But I think what we've seen is Brad Holmes really covets the players that he selects. Even the likes of a Chase Lucas last year made the team. And when you see his numbers, averaging 18 yards plus a reception, this can be a player that can fill in and kind of take some of the targets and some of the receptions that were lost due to Chark leaving. And I think early on, I think the Lions don't put a lot of pressure on their rookies, especially in the 7th round. He'll ease his way in through training camp, and then working with Marvin Jones and Josh Reynolds, I think this player will probably have an opportunity to contribute later on in the year. But a big body target who I think is a solid draft pick by Brad Holmes.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, man. I think this was a really good pick by Detroit Lions. It was a 7th round pick, like John said. It's going to be a little bit tougher for this kid. You know, he's going to have to get some special teamwork in there, but being that big body frame at 6'2", 200 pounds. You know, and he got some speed too. He actually kind of reminds me a little bit of Marvin Jones. If you actually watch him on tape and you watch his game film. So being in the room with a guy like Marvin Jones is going to be really special. And he's sneaky fast. He's got some good speed to him. And really, he was kind of, the second fiddle to Josh Downs at North Carolina. And he didn't get a lot of play, probably maybe one of the reasons why he slipped in this draft. But he did produce at North Carolina, not with the greatest quarterback play, a little bit better with Sam Howell at the wheel. But this is a good sneaky pick. 7th round guy. He's going to have to get some special teams working on probably to, get noticed right away. But I like his big body. I like his frame. And like Brad Holmes, he's going to go after guys that he likes. So, this whole draft was a little bit different like that. A lot of the fan base did not like this draft, but Brad Holmes he's going to come out and tell you, he doesn't care about your mock drafts. They covet certain guys. So Antoine Green was one of those guys.
Well, this is what Brad Holmes thought about your mock drafts anyways, guys. Tell you the truth. So with the pick of Jeff Okudah to the Atlanta Falcons for 159, the 5th round pick of 152, Kobe Sorensdale. Talk about that, brother. Do you like him?
Yeah,
he's a big
athletic,
dude.
Yeah, athletic tackle. Just a funny story. Obviously, when you get to the 5th round, you start getting, some players that maybe some people have not exactly heard of, and you realize that, okay, this is a player that still has a lot of potential. Played tackle in college, I believe, at William and Mary. But I think now when you see what his skill set's going to be, you believe that he's going to project to be playing along the interior of the offensive line, competing with Big V and Graham Glasgow, maybe at guard, because obviously your tackle spots are pretty solidified, barring any injuries. But something that you got to pay attention to now moving forward. At this point in the draft, I believe it was the second or third consecutive player that was featured at the East-West Shrine game. So the Lions obviously really valued an all-star game where they got to see, athletic individuals that, impress them. But you realize, okay, this is a player that, is athletic, maybe, is not exactly defined fully in his athletic skills, but he's got good lateral movement, will fit a zone rushing attack. At times maybe he's going to have to put on some, more muscle and because he lacks a little bit of power. Obviously he's going to have to get bigger in his overall the next couple years, but I still think that the skill set that he brings to the table, when you see his film, raw offensive lineman that will have the ability to, when he fully develops, I think that he's going to be a very solid run blocker and open up holes for this running attack. And you guys have got to remember that the Detroit Lions, in the 5th round, you're looking for depth pieces. You're not looking for somebody right away to come on in, especially when you're going to see the competition in training camp is going to be between Graham Glasgow and Big V. So if Sorsdale can come on in and compete and learn the system, you add a depth piece, a young player that can grow into his position, but still raw. And obviously coming out of William and Mary, not playing a big Division V powerhouse school, not playing in one of the top, divisions in collegiate football.
Yeah, that's a good take, John. Like you said, 5th round pick, you're going to see, depth pieces come into play here. And, this guy playing at a smaller school at William and Mary, a sleeper O lineman. I think it was Duke Manyweather on Twitter said that we picked up one of the best sleepers in the draft at the O-line position. And he's an O-line guru. So, what he says kind of holds some water there. This is a kid that, that didn't let up a sack since 2019. Being at a smaller school, you're like, okay, what's the big deal? But that is a big deal. That's something that's really noticed by GMs and scouts. And, he's 6'5", 305 pounds. So he's probably projected to go inside. But like John said, too, as well, he was in the All-Star game. I think it was the East and West Shrine Bowl. Is that where he played? And
yep, absolutely. Yep.
Guard and tackle. So yeah, so they got a good look at him. And Brad Holmes, again, he loves those guys that are versatile, and he's a very versatile kid. He's probably I think he's gonna win a roster spot, be a backup, probably inside the Big V, or Graham Glasgow will be in there. Right now, if you look at the depth chart, they have him literally behind Taylor Decker at left tackle. So that's probably going to change a little bit, but yeah, man, I like this Sorsdal pick. It was a real good sleeper pick.
That's awesome. You guys have great takes. I made a little bit of clip art here. Look at those 3 mugs.
Hey, it's me in Vegas.
Yeah, I know. You had a good time. I'm going to be in Vegas actually for my wife's 50th birthday, and I'm also going to be there for the Super Bowl. So for nice. 3 days. Yeah. So let's talk about our 96th pick in the 3rd round. Defensive tackle. This guy's a big dude, man. He's huge. This Broderick Martin. Talk about it, Mark.
Yeah, Broderick Martin was a guy, they traded 3 picks to get this guy. Man, Broderick Martin, out of the he's a hilltopper too, Western Kentucky hilltopper, 6'5", another big guy, 340 plus pounds, or 337, 340, whatever he is. He's probably going to push the pocket. He's not going to be a guy that is probably going to be a pass rusher or anything like that, but he can collapse the pocket a bit. He's a space eater. He's a run stuffer. We need some big guys up front. We saw what teams did to us this year or last year, sorry. Just getting gashed up the middle. We need some big bodies in there. So I think this is going to be a guy that is going to go up the middle, stick with those guards and centers, and hopefully stop the run. So, we need some help. We need to free up some of these linebackers. We need to free up guys like Jack Campbell. We need to free up Anzalone Rodriguez, get Hutch free. So we need this guy to play. He's a 3rd round pick, man. He wasn't a guy that was rated very high, but again, to come back to Brad Holmes, man, he loves going after certain individuals, and this was a guy.
Right on. Good take, John. Talk about it, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys said it. You saw what one of the biggest Lions issues last year on defense was stopping the run. And it was interesting, though, at that spot, because that's the biggest one of the areas that fans have been debating online at All Lions and Lions Lowdown. Okay, they took a defensive tackle in the 5th round. Was it actually worth it? I'm curious what Mark's take is regarding passing on one of the best defensive tackles all around in Jalen Carter, because it opens up such a huge amount of discussion regarding, okay, you're picking a Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell kind of guy, big, fits the mold. He came out after being drafted and said that he's motivated by the memory of his brother who passed away. This is somebody that's hungry. But when you look at his tape, he's still very raw. And people saw his tape, and Brad Holmes was asked about it in a radio interview. He plays a little bit high sometimes. His pad level fundamentally sometimes gets out of whack. And Brad Holmes said, yes, he acknowledged it. And he said that every player has warts. No player that we're going to scout is perfect. They're going to have their strengths, which is that Broderick Martin is very athletic, and his sheer size and athleticism will help him play a key position. Just his body type will help at least clog the middle and be somebody that can potentially be a run stopper. But Brad Holmes said that, look, when we target players and we see warts, can pad level and certain fundamentals that aren't there yet, can they be targeted? And he said, yes, a player like Broderick Martin will come in and get coached up. We don't target players that we don't think can be coached up. So yeah, you can see warts on a lot of different players, and people will see it. But I'm very curious, Mark, do you think 3rd round was the spot for defensive tackle, especially passing on like Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, the likes of some of the top guys that were there? It's the biggest debate. I'm just curious what you think.
No, I think it's a really good question. I really wanted a defensive tackle in this draft, if not 2 of them. So, passing, I was big on Jalen Carter, but, I don't have that kind of information that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have. I don't have the luxury of talking to Jalen Carter on a personal level. So they brought him in, they picked his brain. They saw where he was kind of at. We know the talent's there, but, is he all about football? So they obviously had it in their minds, draft day, that, okay, we're going to pass on Jalen Carter because he was there. Like, he was obviously there. They could have took him. Is it going to come back to bite us in the butt? That's a whole other thing. That's a whole other discussion. I would have liked him on the team. I like Jalen Carter. I thought what happened was a tragedy. I understand all that. I don't think it's completely his fault. I think it's, I don't really think it's character concern with him, but just from looking on the outside looking into that. I think it's more of a maturity issue with him, it seems like. And he said some things, like pre-draft that were a little bit concerning. Like, I could have played a little bit harder. I could have did this. I could have did that. I'm not going to go visit with the teams outside of the top 10. I think that might have scared off guys like Brad Holmes and other teams, even though we had the 6th pick. Like, why would you say that? So, it could come to bite us. We got a guy in Broderick Martin who's not even close to the skill set that Jalen Carter is. We already know this. But we got a guy that I think is a football player and eats football 24/7. So, the skill set is a little bit different, but I think the football part of it is what matters the most to this regime.
Yeah, Mark, real interesting. Okay, you brought something up. I do want to counterpoint Mark's point here. Okay, because he did bring up something that Brad Holmes said. Okay, and it's really fascinating. Yes, we are not privy to the deep psychological insights that the Lions have over the time that they interviewed him and things like that. But Jalen Carter didn't get drafted in a spot where he's going to shrivel up. He went to the defending NFC champion. So it goes to the debate. Okay, listen, and it's very fair, guys, to criticize and evaluate what a general manager does. We are talking about the Detroit Lions, who have a history of selecting players. Yeah, Brad Holmes gets more credit for picking players that are going to be successful, but at the same time, Jalen Carter fell only a couple more spots at beyond number 6. So when someone like me looks at the tape, everybody watches the tape. And just because Brad Holmes says, well, we looked at him in past, there might be a variety of reasons that we don't know why he wasn't selected. Maybe the Lions wanted him, but Sheila said, coming on the heels of Jameson, no more headlines. He might have been on the draft board. That's a very possible situation. Yeah. I don't, for me, when I say, okay, there's certain players that the Lions could have taken, it's not, unreasonable to speculate and discuss different players that the Lions didn't take, because the debate is the Lions sometimes might sacrifice God-given talent for players that they believe fit the culture. And that's going to be the debate that determines how successful Brad Holmes is. Because remember, if it comes down to the Lions and the Eagles, it's going to be the most beautiful matchup, because the Lions are the hardworking, gritty team versus the Eagles, who kind of went a little splashy with DeAndre Swift, taking the Georgia defense and taking some players that had question marks, who the Lions could have targeted. Jordan Smith, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. So you recognize that there's something to be debated. And while I definitely am very favorable of Brad Holmes, there's still a lot of room to debate and have these kind of talks where, yes, the psychological impact is important, and all that research that they do is important. But you also look at it when you say what wins championships, it's high-end talent. And guys, when you get to the National Football League, yes, most players are motivated, but sometimes what is the end-all, be-all might not be championships. It's the almighty dollar. So a guy like Jalen Carter might be motivated to come in, play very well, and earn a hefty. These defensive tackles are making big-time money. So it's very interesting, and I'm very curious to see how the Lions' interior defensive line shakes out, because you could have targeted more talented players. You might even be able to take Ika, I believe, who was still on the board when Martin was there. There's still another player you could have taken that was a little bit more refined in his skill set. So you got to be I'm curious to see how the Lions coaching staff, because they do have a new defensive line coach, how a player that's raw, that still has some fundamental stuff to work on, how that's going to shake out. So I'm very curious. I just hope, please, one-time football gods, don't let Jalen Carter be Aaron Donald. And if it's in the playoffs, let Jalen Carter be the one swatting Jared Goff and, dancing at Ford Field in a playoff game. Let's just have everybody, in their own lane, and hopefully Broderick Martin makes some plays. And I don't want to have this discussion for the next 3 years, and debating Mark and debating everyone about Jalen Carter.
Well, do you think though, John, do you actually, you're a little bit of an insider inside, I'm not sure how much inside you have, but do you have an idea what Sheila was thinking about Jalen Carter? Do you have any kind of info?
Listen, she's more of an owner that defers the football stuff to Brad Holmes. Full trust. And you obviously don't want to bring in a guy. The biggest question mark, it was clear. Word got out that potentially he wasn't working as hard, and potentially there were going to be questions regarding, game in, game out, practice hard all the time type of a situation. And the Lions don't want that. They want gamers. They want 100% commitment, minus any question marks. And while I think the risk would have been low, I think Jalen Carter is going to be a healthy pro with the Eagles, play well. There's still that risk. And at number 6, you're investing a hefty amount of money in a player. And if there's just that much risk, especially coming off of what went on with Jameson, Brett Holmes said you can handle one player that is a headline grabber. 2 just gets to the point where it's too much. And I think that when they saw their board, they were willing to go in a different manner. They felt like obviously they could get a defensive tackle later, but it's debatable. It's very debatable that, hey, you could have addressed the defensive tackle with a more talented player, and we'll see. Let's just hope. And for Carter in his career, what a beautiful landing spot than to go play with your former teammates in a supportive environment. You can't get any better. Someone's looking out for him too, because he's going to be in a position where he doesn't have to be the shining light. In Detroit, he was going to get a lot of attention. in the Eagles situation, dude, there's so many other players that are even on his along the defensive line. He can blend in and just naturally fit. It's a perfect fit for what the Eagles got going on. And he lucked out in my mind. He would have been under a heavy microscope here in Detroit, and he would have been expected to, hey, stop, be the leader of the defensive line almost quickly.
And think about that. If he would have slipped by the Eagles, like you said, Nolan Smith is there, Jordan Davis is there, Nakobe Dean. They got all kinds of Georgia guys. If he gets by Philly, how far could he have possibly dropped? That's another debatable question, right?
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen them there at 12. See what would have happened. I loved him being there at 6. It gave us the answer. They didn't like what he was delivering. So we'll see what happens. It's a big risk.
It's a great question.
Okay, guys, we're going to talk about I'm a big Eric Kramer fan. Every Detroit Lions loves a great backup quarterback. Then we're going to talk about Brian Branch, Sam Laporta, Jack Campbell, and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm going to jump out and let these two professionals talk, and I'm going to do some producing. So let me do this right now and talk about it, guys.
Who do you want to talk about first? John, who do you want to talk about first, John?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, Hendon Hooker, what'd you think of the pick? Was that the right guy, the developmental quarterback? I mean, we all thought they were going to draft a quarterback. This one seems like the right fit. I mean, no pressure, can come in, I think is perfect for what the Lions are looking for. And the blessing is that you weren't really terribly surprised. He had a picture that went viral online with Ray Agnew at the Senior Bowl. You saw what he brought to the table. So I'm okay with it because there's no pressure. And guys, it's not like if Hendon Hooker doesn't shine in a year or two, you can always draft another one, and you can always draft. Right. You can draft a quarterback next year. So I'm excited about what he can bring to the table. I think being a little bit older is an advantage. He'll be mature. I think his game can develop. And I think in this situation, putting him with Jared Goff and Ben Johnson and Nate Sudfeld, what a great opportunity. He's getting a redshirt year. This year, he's just about acclimating, getting healthy, and being a player that maybe has a shot. So I think it's a solid pick. I don't see any warts with it. I think that, it's going to be a learning curve, but I think you clearly see a player that is going to rest and sit and learn, and barring a catastrophe to two quarterbacks, won't have to see the field this year at all. And you have zero risk, like they're saying. There's no real inherent risk in drafting them, especially where they got them.
Yeah, exactly. I really like this pick. The most polarizing subject in sports in Detroit is always the quarterback, the goalie, or the starting pitcher. And it's like, so everyone's talking about the Jared Goff versus Hendon Hooker, Hooker versus Goff. It's going on really bad right now. There's some good, some bad. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of positivity. So I like where we grabbed the kid. I think it was like you said, I think it was a really solid landing spot for Hooker. He comes from that pass-friendly offense, a little video game-esque, where he didn't have to make a ton of decisions, but he does make decisions. He's not just going to go out there blindly and throw the ball. So I really like his game. I thought we were going to draft a quarterback. I didn't know where we were going to draft one. Obviously, we needed to take one because, we have Nate Sudfeld. Not throwing any shade on Nate, but, he's not really the answer at backup quarterback. Hooker's supposed to be ready. He just started dropping back and throwing the football. So it's going to be interesting to see how ready he will be. I have a feeling he's going to go on the pup, for the beginning of the year. But I love his style. He has a big arm. He can make every throw in the NFL that you need, and then he can get out of trouble. And he doesn't rely on his legs. He uses his legs to get out of trouble. Like, he's not a guy that's just going to tuck and run every single time. So he's always looking downfield, and if he has to tuck the ball, he's gone. So I think he's in a real good situation. Like you said, he's got, I think, a really smart guy in Ben Johnson, the OC. Jared Goff is one of those guys that's not going to push another quarterback to the curb. He's going to, they're totally two different styles, but he's going to teach him how to be a pro. And that's what I love about Goff too. I'm not the biggest fan of Goff. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm not. He has played well above my expectations of what I thought he was going to be when he first came here in 2021. You know, it was a big train wreck, man, at first when he came here. It was like, oh no, we're getting the regressive Goff. He's not going to get any better. And then he got better at the end of 2021, had a great 2022. So, you know, there's so much quarterback talk going on right now in Detroit. It's going to get really interesting, but I think Hendon Hooker could be a guy that could eventually replace him. I just think, you know, but like you said, he's cheap. He's a third round guy, I think, with first round talent. That's just my opinion. And, you know, like you said, we can go get another one. We go get another one. It's not really going to hold us back. And, you know, they have a decision to make with Goff, though. But what do you think about that?
Yeah. Real fast, Kenneth brought up a great point in that one of the warts that he had is his system that he played was like a single read situation with a lot of talented wide receivers. So you saw that, you know, prior to his injury, he was on track to at least have an opportunity to maybe be in the conversation for the Heisman. But yeah, he's got a lot to learn. All rookies have a lot to learn. And you're not going to, guys, Ben Johnson's offense is complex with the route trees, with everything going on. So absolutely, Kenneth, you're right. One of the things he's going to learn is the NFL game is so much faster, and you got to know where all the moving parts are. But you got to also recognize Hendon Hooker's a very bright young man, is somebody that will benefit from learning and sitting, which I think at this point in time is now my philosophy. I think the players like CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, they're in for a rude awakening when they just get thrown in. I'm more into the model that Aaron Rodgers had. Sit for 1, 2, 3 years, learn, have opportunities. I think Jordan Love is set up for a little bit more success than some of these other guys. Anthony Richardson, man, he's in for a rude awakening in the NFL. So Goff, look, in the debate regarding whether or not to give him a contract, I'm like, you already have him secured. You're already paying him north of $25 million. Make him earn it. Playoff win equals new contract. It's straightforward. And that's what's going to happen. I mean, yes, there is value in giving him a contract now, because if he has a playoff win or two, you're going to spike up his average annual value to like 50 million. But at the same time, that just means that you're having success. But if you do it now, you maybe have that cap benefit in the first year of restructuring. That's why they would do it, is to benefit the cap. This coaching staff and front office love Jared Goff. So they're doing everything humanly possible to sell it so that this is the guy. And they're making it so that he has a lot of weapons to have around him. So I believe Goff's going to be here for the next 5 years. And whatever the situation may be, either or, I think this offense has been tailor-made for him. So if you end up having to pay him $45 million, you hope maybe he'll work an agreement similar to Daniel Jones. If he does win a couple playoff games, a little bit of a discount, because if he takes the whole pie, if he takes 16 to 20% of the cap, you might have a hard time signing Aiden, Amon-Ra, Panay, and Jameson. You might end up losing. But that's the NFL. It's the cap situation. But I think Goff has done enough, at least for sure, to be the quarterback in 2023. And yes, he doesn't have elite Mahomes talent. Right. But when you put the team around him like the Lions have, you can win playoff games with Goff. You can even get to the NFC title game and beyond with Goff. The question is, hey, down 3 in the Super Bowl with 75 yards to go, do you want Goff slinging it? I think half of Detroit would be wetting their pants.
Yeah, I think so too, right? And that's the benefit of having a really good GM and drafting well. You know, they drafted well, and we're going to have to really, you know, they're going to have to really come up with something within these next couple of years. Like, you know, you got Panay, you got Amon-Ra, you're going to have all those types of guys that are going to be up for big money contracts. And, you know, if they want to pay Goff, you know, I want to see him win a playoff game. That's if he wins a playoff game, I won't say a friggin' word anymore about Jared Goff on any podcast. Right. If he wins a playoff game, and he's part of the reason why, not just getting carried there. You know, he doesn't have to do it all by himself. So I think it's impossible for NFL players to do it by himself. I think a lot is put up too much on quarterbacks nowadays. I hate the win-loss records for quarterbacks. I think it's a played out stat. I think it creeps me out. I don't like it. So, you know, I just want to see him win, man. I just want to see him win. I want to see him be a little bit better on the road, a little more consistent on the road, because he's had some stinkers on the road, man. And you know, injuries take factor into that. I understand that, but if he wants that deal, $40 to $45 million, I think he needs to be a little bit better and win a playoff game. That's it.
Yeah, and it's real simple. if you want to get Jared Goff off his game, you got to bring the pressure. And teams know that, because what has he done lately in the last stretch of games? He stopped turning the ball over. He stopped getting the happy feet. He kind of stayed in it a little bit more. Does he revert back? You want to see progression, and you hope that offensive line will allow him to do that, because when things get shaky and the pressure ramps up, it's when the football hits the ground, the turnover starts. So you hope that he does take a step forward this year, which I think he will. But it just sucks that Jameson Williams is missing the first 6 games. It's brutal. Just a brutal. We'll talk about that a little later. I'm curious, what'd you think of the Brian Branch selection? Because a lot of people want to know maybe where he fits. Where, I'm curious, do you see the Lions in their secondary? Who do they field in your mind as the starters this year in combination with Brian Branch?
Man, I think the Brian Branch pick was incredible. I couldn't believe he was still there. You know, I kind of lost him in the shuffle when I was actually doing a podcast. I was doing a live stream, and I honestly kind of lost track, and I thought he was already gone. You know, he's probably the best safety prospect, but he played at Alabama last year. He was mainly a nickel corner. He played like 90% of his snaps at nickel cornerback, and you know, I think he was the best safety prospect and the best nickel cornerback prospect in this draft. He slipped. He slipped. He's a physical kid. He's not the biggest kid. He's not big, but he plays like he's about 210, 215. He brings it. He's a missile. You know, he doesn't miss tackles, which is incredible. I think he missed something like 4 tackles in 3-4 years at Alabama. He don't miss. He plays in the box. He's almost like a second line. He's almost like a second, third linebacker out there at his size. So, you know, he needs to work on some things. He's not the perfect prospect, but he's a really good football player. And like where I think he fits in, I think he's going to be a rotational piece. I love what Brad Holmes has done during the offseason, bringing in Emmanuel Mosley. You know, we just need him to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, my goodness. Cameron Sutton was playing out of his mind at Pittsburgh. You know, we brought in, I think, another outstanding player in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I think he's going to be that pest. He's going to be that annoying. He's going to be like that Sue in the backfield for the Detroit Lions, and he can bring it. And all these guys that I mentioned can intercept the football, you know, and then you have guys like Gary Jacobs learning. So I think Brian Branch, I think he's going to get a ton of time at nickel cornerback. I think him and C.J. Gardner-Johnson are going to be very, very, very close. And it's almost like I almost feel like when they drafted Branch, you know, you got Gardner-Johnson on that 1-year deal. Could he be the guy that eventually just fills right in if they can't get Gardner-Johnson under contract next year? Because Gardner-Johnson is going to demand humongous money next year. He wanted big money this year, but he kind of fumbled the bag. He kind of fumbled the bag and thought he was going to get a little bit more, and it didn't really happen for him. You know, and then you see Brad Holmes jumped in there and swooped them up for a 1-year deal, which I thought was great. So I can see Branch coming in. I don't think he's going to start right away, but I think he's definitely going to get a ton of playing time.
Exactly. And you realize some people want to know, okay, how are we looking? Well, I think it's pretty straightforward. You're going to have Jerry Jacobs and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and then you're going to have Tracy Walker and Kirby Joseph at the safety spot. Will Harris will get in the mix too in the rotation at nickel. I think that Cam Sutton, Jerry Jacobs on the outside, C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the slot, rotating in with Brian Branch and Will Harris. And then you got Ifeatu Melifonwu, who's going to compete for reps too in sub packages. Right. So you have to credit Brad Holmes for what they did in regards to upgrading the depth significantly. I mean, you have a secondary that can play and will benefit from a defensive line. So, I mean, the starters are ridiculous. Don't discount Jerry Jacobs, what he can do. Will Harris is the outlier. I think that he's more, you know, the organization loves him, but teams target him and they know his weaknesses.
I'm sorry, bro, but I was kind of surprised they re-signed Will Harris. No, you? A little bit?
I'm very surprised because teams target him, and it's just it's a tough proposition. But I think that they feel like with improved talent, then you can put him more instead of being a starter, be in a reserve role. Then you could give C.J. Gardner-Johnson the flexibility to do a bunch of different things. And then, like I said, he's on the team. It doesn't mean he'll see the field all that much. You still need depth pieces at the back end of the roster should injuries happen, or you give a player two to Gardner Johnson. But Jerry Jacobs and Cam Sutton are going to be great on the outside, and Gardner Johnson is gonna wreak havoc in the slot there. And the safeties, Tracy Walker's out there doing drills, so he's trending in a good direction. And then you got Brian Branch, who's going to do stuff on special teams. He'll get in the mix probably all over the place. He'll be, having opportunities in the slot, a couple reps at safety here and there. So he's going to be able to do it all. And the blessing about him is he's a surefire tackler, and that's what you love. Physical, read and awareness is strong, and you just absolutely, his skill set jumps off the page. It's such a great draft pick, and it's going to be just a lovely opportunity to see what the secondary can do, especially with that defensive line. And you have the pass rush that we got. It's just going to help the secondary tremendously, and we can actually see really in totality what kind of defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn is. And then how else do you help? You help the defense by bringing in a stud in Jack Campbell, who I think is just going to be somebody that jumps off the screen early in his career. I think that, when you see an inside linebacker with that skill set, it's just a player that helps and upgrade. That's what we asked for. Upgrade the linebacking core. And I think he's a solid addition, and he's going to work with Alex Anzalone. And what happens, guys, though, I think that Malcolm Rodriguez is going to take a back seat in 2023. He's going to see probably a little bit fewer reps.
He might, Yeah, like you might see a little bit of backseat action for Malcolm Rodriguez. That is for sure. I think Jack Campbell can be a guy that's eventually going to wear the green dot for this team. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. He can run well. He's straight line speed. He's not the fastest, but he's a sideline to sideline guy. Very smart. I know Brad Holmes came out, and I think it was Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell coming out saying that this guy was literally like deciphering our defense, man. When we had him in here, he was literally telling us what our defensive plan was. So, just very, very, very aware, and just like an absolutely stud of a linebacker. I think he's going to rotate in and out. Like you said, though, it's going to be Anzalone. You're going to see some Jack Campbell and Rodriguez. Rodriguez taking a little bit of a back seat there. No shade on Rodriguez. We love Rodriguez. We love the story, the 6th-round pick, out of Oklahoma State. You can't go wrong with that pick, man. They found a gem there. But, they drafted this kid very high. They're going to give him every opportunity to shine in that defense. And, hey, he stops the run. He's a big linebacker, too, kind of like that modern day throwback a little bit. Not a throwback totally, a little more modern, but he's a guy that's going to just, he's going to blood, sweat, and tears. I think he's going to be one of those guys. Chris Spielman loved the pick too as well. Almost reminds me of a Spielman type player. He can do a lot of good things just like Chris did for the Detroit Lions years ago. So I'm excited for that pick and Jack Campbell. The Captain Jack is in the building.
Yeah, Detroit's going to love him because you just go back and go to YouTube and listen to his opening presser. Loves football, all about football, hunts, and basically is a simple guy, not on social media. I mean, this guy is all about football. And the organization, the front office, fell in love with him when they talked to him. Why? He's a Dan Campbell guy and a Chris Spielman guy to a T. Loves football. He came in and started talking about winning. He said, I'm here to win, and I want to win with this organization. Go back. If you want to get hyped up for the season, look at that presser. And what a no-frills kind of guy that can be what a linebacker is supposed to be. No nonsense. Hit people, see people, and cause havoc. And yes, another factor in stopping the run. I think a lot of people, and I don't know how you sit with it, because obviously we're going to talk about it. I don't care about positional value. If you got a good football player and you love him, and everybody had Jack Campbell mocked to the Lions at 34. If he's there and you love him, then you take him. You ensure you get a guy that you want in your system. I don't care about positional value. I never have. I just want the players that they pick to actually work out. So I think that they did with Jack Campbell. I see a linebacker that's going to be somebody that's going to be a fixture here. His college coach spoke to us in the media, and he said any team that picks him is never going to let him leave for 10 years because he's a good guy, leader, one of the top guys. And tight end Sam Laporta was just like raving about him when he was talking to the Lions. He was talking more about Jack Campbell than himself. That's how great the situation is.
Yep, absolutely. Perfect segue
for like the Laporta pick.
Yeah, we kind of jumped the
we
gun.
stick.
We were supposed to talk about Sam first, but we got excited with the linebackers. I love it. Sam Laporta, that was a pick for me. I was like, oh no, another tight end in Detroit. But
Right.
you digest it a little bit, man. You look in that room right there in Detroit, that tight end room. It's not a bad room. You drafted James Mitchell in the 5th round last year, a guy that probably would have went in the 3rd if he wasn't hurt prior. You got Shane Zylstra, kind of undrafted free agent guy who was a stud wide receiver in college. Brock Wright, another UDFA out of Notre Dame, kind of doing his thing. Kind of an all-around guy. They actually did some nice things last year. You had Hawkinson for half of the year. I think they tied or they broke the touchdown record for tight ends in the organization with 12 or 13, I believe it was. Somebody might want to quote me on that, but I think it was a good room. I didn't really think they were going to go tight end early, but and Sam Laporta was a guy that was probably around a 3rd or 4th best tight end in this draft, maybe. Michael Mayer was right there from Notre Dame, went immediately after to the Raiders. So,
Right.
it was kind of a scratch your head moment for me at the time. I was like, oh no, we're going to get roasted for this pick. But I'm like, you go look at the tape, you go look at the production. He is really good with the yards after the catch. He's got really nice hands.
Yeah.
It's hard to tackle. He has a lot of yards. He didn't score a ton of touchdowns at Iowa. He didn't score a ton, but his yak and moving the chains is what he does well. He's very athletic, a good route runner. He's going to help Jared Goff, nice security blanket. So, the pick, I'm warming up to it. And like you kind of alluded to earlier, like positional value, who cares anymore? Who cares anymore? Because if you look at all the players, those top 4 or 5 guys they got, you switch them around, you jumble them up a little bit, and then you look again, you're like, oh, now look at this draft. You got players. You got players. So who cares about positional value? We did give him in the 2nd round. That's fine. I thought he was going to drop a little bit farther, but like I said, I don't have that luxury of having all the info that Brad Holmes does. They brought this kid in, and he's pure football too. And he was raving, like you said, about Jack Campbell, which was awesome. Those guys are friends.
Yes.
I think the question was, who's the one guy you would want to bring with you to this team? And he said Jack Campbell. And so like Campbell. One of those guys said that. It was vice versa. I don't know who said what, but these guys have mutual respect for each other. Two captains. Jack Campbell being a captain on D. Laporta was one of the captains on offense. They both won a bunch of awards. Laporta won Big Ten Tight End of the Year. Jack Campbell won Linebacker of the Year, the Buckus Award. So we got 2 ballers right there, man. And I do like the Laporta pick now.
And Mark, as you were talking, I do want to say this, okay? Because for some reason, mock drafts took a massive hit because people thought that people doing mock drafts were going to pinpoint exactly how trades were going to go down and all that kind of information. There are limitations to mock drafts, but guys, if you paid attention from January until April, the mock drafts, Hendon Hooker, Brian Branch, Laporta, Jack Campbell, 4 players that the Lions got, 50% were mocked to Detroit. Okay, so what mock drafts do, guys, for those that are hating on them, there are entertainment. They do allow for the ability to kind of dream scenario to play GM. But at the same time, you start to learn the cluster of players that the Lions could be interested in. So for those like Danny that say these mocks mean nothing, it's entertainment. That's why the reason, guys, the reason why, and I can tell you, I'm a publisher. I write. So the reason why we do 75 of them is because you guys read them at such a clip that if I did a mock draft one day and then a breaking analytical film review, the difference in viewership is 8x, 8 times. So if you guys want mock drafts to go away, stop reading them. It's not going to happen because you all are doing it. You're all enjoying it. And remember, you can't, because general managers want that because it takes away the heat. when we criticize what they got going on, but that's our job, is to question everything. That's the job of a journalist, is to question everything. And even though I'm a fan of the Lions, your job is to question, why are you doing this? Why could you not do that? So that's where people mistake in these mock drafts. They do mean something. If you paid attention, you knew 50% of the players that were potentially in the range of the Lions. And Sam Laporta, to talk about him, I think people got nervous because of what TJ Hawkinson brought to the table. And we would joke in the media room and everybody in Lions Kingdom that for whatever reason, TJ would catch the ball and fall down. Like he was allergic to yak. And the Lions weren't adverse to go back to Iowa because what does Sam Laporta do? Yards after the catch. They saw on film, this is a monster. This is somebody that is going to compete at a high level and do the things that a tight end can do. Guys, a tight end is the ultimate security blanket. Look at how fast Jared Goff connected with Brock Wright. Look at how fast these guys can connect with a tight end. Sam Laporta is going to fit in quickly. If you want potentially an outside Lions Rookie of the Year, look at Sam Laporta. He's going to get touches. He's going to have opportunities to make plays. And if you can extend drives with Sam Laporta getting the ball, I think him and Goff are going to become close real quick. And everybody is going to be happy with Sam Laporta. I think it's 1A, 1B with him and Meyer. They're both really talented. Maybe Meyer a little bit better blocker, but I think the Lions and they got a new tight ends coach will instill blocking because it's very important.
That's right. Yeah. So, okay, well, we got Jahmyr Gibbs on the table now.
Here we go.
Go first on Jahmyr Gibbs, bro. I need to hear your take on Jahmyr Gibbs. This was another pick that I was, very shocked and surprised. I was very shocked and surprised. Okay. Super talented kid. I was just like, okay, this kid is super. What do you think of him, John?
Yes. Real fast, I want to ask. I keep seeing your Orums there, the Orums forum. You regularly comment on the Lions Lowdown, right? You're in the mix there, commenting and on those stories at Lions Lowdown.
Yeah.
I'm the one replying to them all, and I see all your stuff. I respect greatly your debates, your point of view, and now to finally meet you and have this conversation is great, man, because you see. I follow
you guys hard, man. Like I follow you guys hard during camp and all that stuff, and I give you guys all kinds of all kinds of respect.
I credit you.
I mention you guys all the time, man.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for commenting. I definitely noticed the ones that will challenge my thinking and things. But to get a little credit, I was one of the rare people that threw out the potential of a running back at number 6. And the reason why, and I got a lot of heat from maybe someone like Mark or other supporters, was, the defense. Well, the reason why I did that, and I honed in on Bijan Robinson because I just fell in love with his tape. But this draft season opened me up that, hey, if I'm thinking something, open it up to more players. Because if I would have saw Jahmyr Gibbs, I would have included him on a mock draft at number 6. But I wanted, after a while, watching how the Lions were building, I mocked Bijan Robinson and Jack Campbell quite a few times because I felt like, you know what? A running back added to this offense would help Jared Goff. And that's the mindset that I got put in throughout the draft cycle as you realize, okay, this football team is building around Jared Goff with the offensive line, adding Jameson Williams, trading up to draft Jameson Williams. And then Brad Holmes did sprinkle a nugget in and said, hey, I did draft Todd Gurley at number 10. So that opened up the idea of a running back. And I threw it out there on podcasts, on Lions Lowdown, at All Lions. I threw it out there and I took all the heat and I gave all my rationale, and the Lions did it. Beautiful opportunity that they took to trade down, because at number 6, I think they would have took even more heat, because I took a bunch of heat for even throwing it out there as a mock draft. Yeah. Oh, how can you the positional value of a running back? It's unbelievably distasteful. What about the needs on defense? Well, guys, they didn't take Jalen Carter. They took a running back, and they got lucky in that the way the draft board shook out, they were afforded the opportunity to trade down, and to take Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 is solid. It's a great pickup. because of his explosiveness. When you just turn on the tape of what he did at Alabama, my goodness, breakaway speed. And guys, the Lions in their talks with the media are very forthright, more than before. They want guys that break tackles. They want individuals that hustle. Ben Johnson at the end of the year said, if we just broke a couple more tackles and got 6 or 3 to 5 more yards per carry, this offense is unstoppable. And now you've upgraded the running backs room from DeAndre Swift, who was always hurt, to Jamal Williams, who had a good skill set, but limited. Now you have a home run threat that can be used in the slot in Jahmyr Gibbs. You have David Montgomery, who can be the bell cow and the goal line running back. And you got Craig Reynolds that can be a thumper and someone that comes in to spell. That running backs room is very talented. And Jahmyr Gibbs, guys, you're going to fall in love with him because Goff's going to find him in the slot. He's going to get a lot of screen passes. He's going to be a weapon. And at any moment, he can turn on the Jets and take it to the house. So when everybody was losing their cool about, and of course the media, when it happened, I just watched the replay of the draft and ESPN was like, wow, they drafted a running back and surprised everybody. Bijan Robinson was being talked about as a stud. Guys, Jahmyr Gibbs is not a scrub. Other teams were going to take him. So learn to fall in love with Jahmyr Gibbs because for the next 4 years, you're going to have a weapon that is going to be the quarterback's best friend. So I give it an A+. I love that draft pick because obviously I had a feeling they were going to do a running back and to get him at 12 and trade down was absolutely perfect. We've all been clamoring for that. So I can't knock what they did. I was fully in favor of it. I helped you guys prepare for it. I mocked Bijan Robinson plenty of times. I started back in December saying, guys, Bijan Robinson's going to replace DeAndre Swift. It's clear. Now I got the guy wrong, but they went running back. They love Alabama over Texas, which is fine. Now we have another comparison. Bijan the bell cow versus the sexy home run pick in Jahmyr Gibbs. I can't wait to see it. How'd you see it go down?
Hey, I'll admit, John, I probably did give you hell if you did say that 6. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't about positional value because I didn't really care about that. I did want defense at 6. I'm not going to lie. My main guy was Will Anderson. That's who I wanted. Sure. I was kind of hoping it was a pipe dream though that he was going to slip to 6, and we saw what happened with the Texans. Gave up a fortune to go get him at 3, but I think it was a pretty good move by them. But I did want defense, and then Will Anderson was off the board, and in my opinion, maybe they had Will Anderson high, and then I think when Witherspoon went to 5 at Seattle, I was telling everybody when I was doing my podcast, I was telling some friends at work, I was like, I have a feeling they're going to draft that they're going to draft Devin Witherspoon today. I was like, I just have that feeling, and I wasn't that high on Witherspoon. I liked him, but not at 6. So once he went off the board, I was like, they're going to trade down. They traded down, and they got Jahmyr Gibbs, and I was shocked. Like, I'm not going to lie. I love the player, though. I think he's, like you said, 4 years of a guy that's not only a running back, not only a wide receiver, but he's a weapon. That's what this kid is. He reminds me a ton of Alvin Kamara. He reminds me of Alvin Kamara. You see a little Jamal Charles in him. You just see an all-around weapon. And it's just, I was shocked at the pick. I like it at 12. The kid is going to be special. And we all knew once that happened that DeAndre Swift was out the door. We just knew. It was inevitable, right? So him going at 12, we got some value. We got some draft capital in return as well. So I really liked the pick. I didn't think it was going to happen. I give that pick a solid B+ though. I think he's going to be special in this offense. And again, what better team to go to for a kid like that with that type of skill set and this type of offense to come to Detroit with this O-line, with the brainchild and Ben Johnson, with Jared Goff. He likes to throw those little short passes, hit his wide receivers, hit his running backs, hit them short, and get back. So I thought that was a really great pick. I'm not going to knock the pick at all. I was a little bit shocked and taken back by it. But, hey, man, 4 years of that kid, I think he's going to be special.
Hey, Russell Wayne of the Main Event. Honored to have you on the show. Look at these guys are just going at it like this is a ball of knowledge. You got a Lions insider, John McCarron or Macron. Sorry, I keep screwing that up. I always think it in my head. Hey, meet Russell Wayne with the Main Event, and
how's it going?
What's going on, Russ?
I didn't actually expect him to pull me up. I was actually just going to watch backstage, but that's really, really cool. I really enjoy the conversation that you guys are having. I was one of those guys that I wasn't 100%. I mean, I was live on the air when they took the pick of Jahmyr Gibbs, and it kind of took me by surprise a little bit. But I did tell myself I wanted to listen to what Brad Holmes had to say about the pick to see if, it felt like they wanted Bijan and they lost out on all that. But I didn't feel that at all with what Brad had said in the presser. It seemed like he had identified him as one of the top 6 players in the draft total, and they were really happy to get him at 12. That was my take on that.
What'd you think? Did you like the pick, or how'd you react?
When you look at the tape and then you watch how electric he is, and the fact that he's going to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield and be that outlet for Goff, because Goff's biggest the criticism on him is he doesn't do well under the pressure of it. He needs all of the people around him. Well, they have a lot of people around him now, so it really just plays to Goff's strengths and the Goff-ence as well.
Yeah, no, the draft in itself was very interesting the way it shook out. For me, I didn't have the same visceral reaction about day one. A lot of colleagues, a lot of people were shocked at how day one went and things like that, went online and were really critical, and still to this day will knock the Lions. I think overall, the 8 picks that the Lions made were so solid. They fit what the Lions did. There is room for debate for sure. That's how drafts go. But in my opinion, the 8 picks that the Lions made this football team better. It took them from where they were. They've upgraded the secondary. They've added pieces to the offense. They have depth at the offensive line and at wide receiver. The one thing, though, that's just the most challenging is what's going to happen with Jameson Williams missing 6 games. That's going to be so frustrating to happen to start the year, because you had really a football team that was moving full speed ahead in the right direction. Jameson Williams, a little bit concerning regarding his absence, his 6-game suspension, starting to see a little bit of that diva situation and see a little bit of that kind of somebody that is not 100% focused on his decision-making. But this will wake him up real quick. I feel like, okay, if it's going to happen, let it happen now, where the Lions can weather the storm, go 4-2, hopefully with a favorable schedule that we find out about next week. Weather the storm, and I think the Lions are going to finish strong. This has the marks of a team that wins 10, 11 games. I don't see, barring crazy injuries, Goff regressing, I don't see a scenario where all the lessons that were learned last year, getting better on defense, adding a home run threat, upgrading offensive positions. You upgraded at tight end, you upgraded at running back, and you have a situation in which you have Amon-Ra St. Brown who can get better with an offensive weapon in Sam Laporta. I see 10, 11 wins, and that's why you can't grade this draft lower than a B, and that's how I looked at it. I thought overall the draft was positive in my mind.
I agree 100%. What's up? What's going on, Mark Oram, man? It's been a minute since I've got a chance to talk to you, man.
What's going on, Russ? Man, I haven't been on your show in a bit, man. We got to get together. We got to talk some ball, buddy.
Yeah. Hey, that's what we're doing right now, man.
Sure.
And
absolutely.
And when was the last time as a Lions fan? I mean, I remember being excited in 14-15, going through that little stretch where we thought we were good. But, I mean, in the back of your mind, even during those years, you got the Stafford contract, you had the Johnson contract and the Sue contract, all 3 of those together. It was really, really hard for Mayhew to make the team competitive. They kind of hit a plateau, and they kind of were what they were going to be. This is more exciting to me because we're built from the inside out. So we were tough last year without really, really home run type skill position players. So now these skill position players are going to come into this offense. Like Laporta and Gibbs are just they're going to eat. They're going to have people blocking for them. And it's going to be something that's going to be good for them too. because they're coming into a good situation. But Jack Campbell, that's my favorite pick of the draft. I almost cried. I was emotional when they took him because I'm a Buckeye fan. So this guy has kind of destroyed everybody. Like every year Iowa has a top 10 defense and then like the 190th ranked offense out of 120 teams. And they always have a top competitive team and they win games like 9-7 because of guys like Jack Campbell, a natural born leader.
Yeah. And what a perfect marketing tool. I'd say in a year or two, you're going to see so many Campbell jerseys with a player, especially with the tie to the head coach. Perfect fit. His jersey's going to fly off the shelf.
Yeah, that's a great fit, man. That's a great marketing ploy, you know, and you got a guy that's going to just ball out for you for the next, hopefully 8 to 10 years. So I think that was a great pick. When I was doing my live stream of the draft, man, my family was sleeping. It was a little bit later. I almost woke everybody up. I was screaming from the inside. I really did like that Jack Campbell pick, man. But back to JMO though, the JMO thing, it eats me alive. Like, I think the kid is super talented. Last year was really weird, you know, he's rehabbing, he's trying to come back. He only has one catch. You know, he kind of showed out Jared Goff a little bit on the sidelines a couple times. He looked, you know, he looked a little immature, and you know, and I'm not going to bash on JMO right now, but you know, that's what he kind of did. You know, he didn't produce. I don't really think he was ready. Him putting him out, I think they should have put him on the pup for the whole year or just IR'd him. It was just a little. It was a strange scene, and then all of a sudden he gets nailed for 6 games. All you have to do is just leave the building. I just don't understand. Like, you're on the facility, man. You can gamble, use the gambling apps, do what you got to do, but leave the building. I just don't get that, and I don't believe that you know. There's a lot of people saying, well, these guys aren't taught that. That's a load of crap. These guys are taught that. I think from day one, they have to sign off on this.
They know.
Stuff.
They know.
Right?
And here's the thing. I know it's entertainment, but
right.
His signing bonus was north of $16 million. If you know that Calvin Ridley is off for a year for what he did, you should just stay away from that. There are so many more fun things you can do with cash than gambling on an app. You can do so much fun stuff. You can, like I said, just step off the premises, only gamble at the hotel that you're living in, gamble home. That should be ingrained in your brain. But again, 22 years old, you're young, you're bored, you're just sitting around. What do people do? The first thing they do is they go to their phone, they go to Instagram, TikTok. He just swiped through a gambling app, but unfortunately did it on a team property, which is just really bad luck for it was disheartening. And like Mark said, I was bummed out. It was like all this, literally it was like positive story. Jameson Williams suspended 6 games. At least it wasn't a year. At least he didn't gamble on the NFL. But CJ Moore, the loss of CJ Moore, while it's not going to make headlines, it's significant. He was the guy that was catching all the fakes, and they brought him back. So they saw value in a player, and he got kicked off the team. And Quintez Cephas, you know, he was probably the odd man out anyway. Always oftentimes hurt. And just, I don't think was going to be a contributor. He's not, he wasn't picked by this regime. So I think his future was going to be bleak to make the team even. So it's not that big of a loss, but Jameson Williams, hopefully he's got to come back guns a-blazing. Luckily he gets to participate in the preseason. Let's just hope he doesn't suffer any injuries. And let's just hope that he does learn the lesson, because you can't have a major distraction with a guy that's going to be somebody that the team counts on. So I'm happy though. Listen, I think they can overcome it. They, you know, like everybody will say in the comments, they won some games without him. He only had 1 catch, so they can move forward and just give like I said, his catches will be spread out. Marvin Jones, underrated signing, will move the chains. Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, they're going to emphasize the running game. Guys, get ready. This offense is going to be worth the price of admission to go down there. If you can get a ticket, get down there, enjoy the Lions for a couple games, it's going to be worth it. I mean, this is the year. This is playoffs or bust. Hopefully it's a playoff win, but entering into this rarefied air, maybe a home playoff game at Ford Field would produce a win. But I'm more excited entering this year, my 5th official year covering the team as a full-time reporter. It's the most excited I've been, and all signs point to everything going well for the Lions this year.
Damn, John, you are fired up, man. I like that.
He's awesome, isn't he? He's my best guest I've ever had on. This is the second time coming on. I love this guy. He is awesome. He is awesome. I can't wait. I just got season tickets, and I was the second day, and I went in for the Detroit Lions, and I said, okay, I'm gonna be in the end zone. I was planning to be beside the crack man and everything like that. I got 300 level. 300 level.
It's tough,
you know
man.
how hard it is to get these tickets? It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. I'm going to jump out here. My last question is Jared Goff and Hendon Hooker. What do you guys think about that? And I'm going to jump off.
Yeah, my last thought about that is, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, man. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but this was a pretty good pick in the third round. The Hooker versus Goff. Now here comes the controversy. The quarterback controversy in Detroit begins now. Now the kid's probably not going to play this year. Obviously, I can't even see him playing for the first 6 to 8 weeks. But now we're going to talk about future. I think Hooker has an opportunity to maybe win a spot. And I think he's going to eventually be the backup. That's not even a question. But is he going to be the guy that replaces Jared Goff? Now, it comes down to Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell. Do they want to pay this guy, Jared Goff? Do they want to pay him north of $40-45 million? Everyone seems to think that this guy's going to take some home discount. I don't believe that. I don't think he's going to try to eat up all the cap money. But I still think he's going to be asking for quite a bit of change, And if they do, are they going to backload it, front load it, make it cap friendly, make it an early out? Because I think Hendon Hooker has an opportunity here, not this year, to win that starting gig. It just all comes down to what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell think of Jared Goff in the future. Now there's rumblings going on. Just seen some articles going on that all of a sudden Hendon Hooker gets drafted. What's the next article you see? Oh, there's contract talks for extensions for Jared Goff. So within the next 15 months, I think Dave Burkett threw that out there. That's a little bit interesting. Are they going to do that? Something I don't have a clue on right now. I think it could be very well in the mix. Are they going to extend it a couple more years? I can't see him giving him too much more. It just all comes down to money. So I don't know. I know they love him. Brad Holmes has been linked to this guy since forever. He brought him over from LA. He was a big part of drafting him in LA. So then he wanted to bring him to Detroit when he became the GM. So he has a soft spot for Jared Goff. He thinks he can be the guy. Now the big question is, are they going to give him that big money deal? And how's it going to be contract wise, team friendly, not so team friendly? I think Brad Holmes is a really smart individual. I don't think he's going to kill us in the cap. So, what do you guys think of that? Because I think Hooker has an opportunity here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, best case scenario, you get best case scenario. I think you got a player that can be a solid backup, and then if something happens to Goff or you don't feel like he's the guy, he steps in and you develop the next quarterback. I mean, this is where it goes. Is the decision will be, do you invest $40 million in your starter when you can have somebody on a rookie deal? So bottom line, if you can at least get him developed, maybe he gets on the field, plays well, and you trade him for capital, or when the time comes and you need that final piece, a receiver or a defensive lineman or another linebacker, then you have a trade piece that can, hey, you need a backup quarterback, we'll give you this for that, and some draft picks. So it's a win-win situation. And remember, Brad Holmes, if they target a quarterback in next year's draft, they can always continue to add to that room. The Lions have shown that competition is key, that nobody's guaranteed a spot. And they're in a win-win situation with Goff. They don't have to give him a contract. He's signed through 23 and 24. They can wait to see if he wins a playoff game, and then you reward him. If he wins 2-3 playoff games and he's one of the integral factors, then you pay him, and you figure it out later. Because and here's the thing that fans got to realize: you probably aren't going to keep Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. You're not going to keep each and every single one. You know for sure Aiden is going to be a guy. Amon-Ra probably for sure. Penei Sewell for sure. And then you realize, okay, maybe Jamison Williams doesn't see a second contract, or potentially they go in another direction. Maybe he does stay. But eventually speaking, if you trusted Brad Holmes to draft these guys in 2020, in 2021, he can replace them just as easily. And I just think fans have to be prepared that don't fall in love with guys. That's what general managers do, is they, maximize this window, this brief 3-year window that they got, 23, 24, 25, try to win as many playoff games as possible, and then add as many pieces as possible. But Hendon Hooker, I think, is in a great position. And it's a great position for the Lions to have Jared Goff play well and to build this football team that, should Goff go down, there's still an opportunity for someone to come in, whether it be a veteran or Nate Sudfeld, to at least keep the offense moving. There's talent here, and there's opportunities for this offense with Goff healthy to make a lot of plays. So it's win-win all the way around, but I would expect QB3 for Hendon Hooker in 2023. I have to run, guys, but it was great. You can visit me at SI All Lions, si.com/NFL/Lions, or you just go to Google and type in Detroit Lions SI. Our daily content's there. Definitely, if you want to have me back, hit me up again. I'm trying to come on as soon as my schedule allows, give you guys as much access as possible. I love the conversation. And at Lions Lowdown on Facebook, we will have all the conversations there, good, bad, or indifferent. If you like what I'm saying or not, I'm always in there chatting it up. Respectfully, we always have a place for Mark or Russell or anybody that wants to join. Please feel free. I enjoy the conversation. And the reason why I'm fired up is I was sitting in those seats. I was 20th row in the end zone 17 years ago. Unfortunately, my brief history, I saw all the crap. I saw the comeback where the Lions against Minnesota, they tie the game, crowd's going wild, and they botch the extra point. And you're like, how do you botch the snap? I see all the chaos. I seen fans wearing Bengals jersey, the march, the fan that was running through Ford Field with the crazy sign getting tackled. I saw all the craziness, and for 5 years I was a season ticket holder. My friend was like, John, I'm sorry, we can't keep paying this $600. This is crazy. I maybe saw 5 wins in 5 years at Ford Field. So I was a fan. Oh, yeah. I got lucky to be able to parlay that into a media career. Now I'm on the inside a little bit, having fun with it. And I've covered a losing team for 6 years. And now finally, last year was a winning year. Now an opportunity to cover wins and positivity. Yes, I'm going to light up because I wrote SOL far too many times. I'm going to write brand new Lions and positivity going forward. And I look forward to it. And I deserve it. We all deserve it. Because awesome, I deserve it. My hard-earned money went out the door.
You deserve it.
And so do you, Russell, Mark, everybody. Thank you, guys. I can't wait to come back on again.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun.
Touch. All right, man.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Do your best. Let's go. Lions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Lions.
Oh my God, Victory Sunday.
The Giants look at their schedule and they go, oh, the Detroit Lions, and they put the big W, right?
Right.
It's folks, it's everybody that is on the screen right now that is what makes this special, because this organization has been so bad for so long, yet here we all are on a Sunday night at 7 o'clock chopping it up about this football team, because winning 3 in a row and getting this done for the first time since 2017, and like Mark said, having some momentum for this fan base.
When we played against the Patriots one game on Thanksgiving, I had a pretty good game too, and it was just the atmosphere is just different. It's just there's just everybody's ready. You get a chance to wear the throwback uniforms. It was just fun.
I think it's a mixture of both. I think you got to have a good program, but I think the city, the way it's viewed nationally, like the people in Detroit, the business people, the money makers, the